Yeah, about last night. It was interesting to say the least, and we are back at the Mecco go-kart facility to talk about what transpired last night. Talk a little bit more about the new Ather Apex 450. This is hands down the new flagship from Ather. This is them flexing all their muscles to show what this 450 platform can do in terms of two things, design as well as performance. Let's first start with the design, and as you can see, it looks smashing in this new paint scheme. This is all new and exclusive for the Apex. A lot of time, energy and effort was spent behind getting the color paint right. And then of course when you move back, you have this translucent side panel which gives you a peek into the aluminium chassis, and also the clean architecture that they have in the Ather, which helps it stand out from all the other electric scooters or normal scooters for that matter in the market. Of course, you have the more interesting bits, which is the performance. They've given us what Ather owners have been asking for a long time, which is a higher top speed. A top speed of 100 kilometers per hour is what they claim. Also, the acceleration from a standing start is better. They claim that this will go from 0 to 40 in 2.9 seconds. But the biggest update, of course, is what they have done with Regen. And that is something which you do by just twisting the wrist or twisting the throttle in the opposite direction. This is brand new technology, because normally on conventional EVs, the Regen can only kick in, especially to this degree, only after the battery is about 80%. At 100%, you don't really have as much Regen. That is possible because the energy going back to the battery is not conducive. But they have found a way around it. And yeah, so with the Apex, not only can you have full Regen at 100%, but enough Regen to bring the scooter to a stop, which is exactly what we discovered last night. Alright, this is me experiencing the Regen on the Apex for the first time. This is gonna take some getting used to. So they're essentially trying to replicate the feel of a motorcycle engine braking system in a way. But yeah, this is going to require some finesse, because we have already been through a few corners and I still haven't really figured out the right amount of throttle calibration required. But this is definitely interesting. The main agenda here is especially in city-go traffic, they feel this is going to be a boon where you don't even need to use the brakes. You just have the throttle, which will do everything for you. And what makes it interesting is there's an element of finesse which is involved, which makes this like a really good challenge. Feels like we are riding at Le Mans. No lights. Yeah, I still need some more time with this, man. Still adding a little too much Regen. Requires very measured throttle inputs, both on and off the gas. It is hard to tell you how much quicker this is compared to the 450X or the Warp mode, because this is the Warp Plus mode, unless you ride them back to back. But what I can tell you is this is definitely faster up to 100 kilometers an hour, and I think it will clock 100 kilometers an hour, because even with my weight, my size on this scooter, on this small stretch, I could still clock up to 92, 93 kilometers, which is insane. Yeah, because that gives you a peek into how much the power band has expanded. Because earlier with the Ather, it would accelerate really quickly up to from 0 to 40, and thereafter you could feel the torque band kind of flatten out. Now I think they have shifted the goalpost, so now it accelerates pretty hard up to almost 60 kilometers an hour, and thereafter it flattens out. But that acceleration is enough to propel this up to 100 kilometers an hour. And that is the biggest change that you can see in terms of acceleration. But more importantly, it's the deceleration or the Regen which I was most excited about, and I'm happy to report that they have finally listened to my prayers. Ever since I have swung my leg around any of the EVs, the one thing which I've always felt was it could do with a little more Regen. And Ather are the first guys to have really heard my prayers, and they have implemented it on the Ather 450 Apex, and it works really, really well. This brings it that much closer to conventional IC motors. Yeah, so when you're going into the corner, you can actually just turn the wrist in the opposite direction, and you can feel the Regen kicking in and helping you slow the bike down. So think about it. So this is a throttle at 0%, and when I turn it to 100%, it requires this much movement, this much turning. That's the amount of distance it's traveling. But for Regen, this is 0 Regen, this is full Regen. As you can see, my wrist has barely moved. That's why I can feel a little bit for Ather in terms of the progression that is required. It needs to be a little more progressive, because I was going into a lot of these corners trying to just use the Regen to get the scooter to slow down, and as the pace picked up, a lot of times I felt that when I first turned the throttle in the opposite direction, there was not enough Regen, and as soon as I moved the throttle a little bit more, there was suddenly too much Regen. And this scenario can be a little bit scary, not just here on the track, but also on the road, especially for a new rider who, I feel that if you're in a traffic situation, if you accidentally are not careful and go all in, too much Regen would kick in, and which would really scare you as a rider, and you would also be worried about getting hit from behind. So there's a little bit of progression that needs to be dialed into the throttle to make this work. But I 100% believe in this technology. Just adding that little bit of Regen has made the Ather that much more interesting. And also for the enthusiast, having an additional control, yeah, which also requires a little bit of finesse, makes the Apex 450 even more enjoyable to ride and thrash around in the corners. In case you're wondering how exactly have they managed to extract that extra top speed and the acceleration, is mainly down to the motor. It's now more powerful, it's 7 kilowatt. With the addition of the Regen, the range apparently has also increased by about 12%, which again we'll have to test to know for sure if the claim is true. But otherwise, in terms of equipment, in terms of suspension, in terms of the battery size, this is exactly the same as the 450X, which brings us to the $1 million question, which is how much will this cost? Well, the 450 Apex will put you back by 2 lakh rupees ex showroom. That includes, of course, the scooter. That also brings with it a 5-year warranty for the battery. You get the Pro package as standard. You get tire pressure monitoring system as standard, and you also get the special custom helmet which has a similar paint scheme as the Apex 450. It is a lot of money, undoubtedly, but again, I'm pretty sure Ather themselves know that this is not going to sell in big numbers. Yeah, they wanted this to be like one of their marquee products for Ather enthusiasts, and more than anything to show the world what they're truly capable of, which they have done with especially whatever they've done in the Regen technology. Yes, it's not the most affordable, but I like the direction in which Ather are going with this, because these small changes are finally giving us a peek into how EVs can come that much closer to conventional motorcycles or IC engines in terms of character, which has for the longest time been a big question mark for the electric vehicle market.